Welcome back, everyone, to the Planets per Ascendant series. We're currently on Saturn for a Scorpio ascendant. And we're back again with Fiona, who's a year 3 student in the Asheville Vedic Astrology apprenticeship program. Welcome, Fiona. Today we're going to be looking at the fact that Saturn rules the 3rd and the 4th house for a Scorpio ascendant, and that Saturn is exalted in the 12th house, and that Saturn is debilitated in the 6th house for Scorpio ascendant. So just to get started, let's go ahead and think about the fact that Saturn owns the 3rd and the 4th and what that means for a Scorpio ascendant. Do you have any thoughts on that, Fiona?
Okay, so Saturn linking here the 3 and the 4. And the 3rd house we've already talked a little bit actually about, but it's got a whole lot of things going on. One is the courage and the peers and the siblings. And the 4th house we've got of contentment and home and the heart and the mother. So these things are together for a Scorpio ascendant because they're being ruled by the same house lord, which is Saturn. And I think some of the themes that we're going to see then would be that Saturn brings a natural austerity and discipline and controlling. So we might see some rigidness in those relationships, but also that that, I don't know, maybe this is also showing that Saturn is not as soft in the heart center as it could be, because it's got this dryness of Saturn ruling that 4th house space, and maybe its relationships with its peers as well is not quite as luscious and free-flowing. So maybe less by number friends, so maybe close friends, and maybe not natural warmth in expressing from the heart.
Right,
but
right.
Open to your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, you covered most of the main points there. When we think about Saturn ruling the 3rd and the 4th, you know, that starts to tie together their thoughts and their emotions. And what that means is that oftentimes,
good point. Yes,
Scorpio ascendants sometimes they're not able to separate out sort of a thought from an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the reasons why Scorpio ascendants can tend to have a little more anxiety in their life, a little more even depression in their life. Number one, because as you mentioned, the heart center is a little more drier, a little colder because it's ruled over by Saturn. But they also may have a sense of humor or a way of relating to others that people can't quite get behind or understand, because it seems either slightly out of place or a little too cold or a little too aloof. So Scorpios can have some difficulty relating to others because of this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And when we think about the 4th house being ruled over by Saturn for a Scorpio ascendant, this can give difficulties with the mother. It can give difficulties in understanding how to mother individuals in a nurturing way. It rules over the 3rd house. It can also tend to give a bit of distance and detachment from one's siblings and one's peers. And we often think about Scorpio ascendants as being distant and aloof and like you can't quite figure them out. And again, it's not just because it's Scorpio. It's because Saturn rules over those areas of life that where most people find a sense of connection with the peers, with the mother, with the emotions. And when Saturn's there, Saturn's the farthest planet in our cosmology, Vedic astrology that we can see. So the person is just naturally more distant because of that. So when we think about the fact that Saturn is debilitated in the 6th house, what kind of information does that tell you about a Scorpio ascendant and how Saturn functions for them, Fiona? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've got Saturn is debilitated in, that's right, Aries of the 6th house, exactly. Mm-hmm. And, the natural thing that comes up here is the Aries is impulsive, it's got that natural energy of wanting to do things, and that Saturn likes to take its time with things. It's always going to be a little bit slower to come to conclusions and to make decisions. So it's not a natural mix that works very well.
Right.
And then here it is now added, another layer added on top of that is the sixth house, which is with enemies, with naturally a way to, you would see that that's coming from an enemy point of view. So that Saturn is not at its best when it's forced to make a decision quickly, especially into relation to things that it thinks are obstacles or enemies. And guided then by that, naturally it's going to be exalted over in Libra, which is the 12th house. And Libra is very much about balance. We talked about this sign extensively last time. It's very much about considering all of those opposing forces and coming up with a good decision. Saturn likes that because it's got to take the time. And doesn't it also, it has something about this 6-12 that in the exaltation of the 12th house has a releasing and letting go kind of energy because it's the 12th. And that we've talked about Mars, about Scorpio perhaps being a bit picky and a bit holding on to things. And releasing. So those are some of my thoughts about the exaltation and debilitation. Oh, and you've changed location.
Yes. While you
You're
were
in
talking,
Saturn now.
While you were talking, I was able to make my way astrally from Jupiter over to Saturn. So anyway, yeah, I mean,
good. These are great skills. Love it.
The point that you brought up, these are the things that you learn by practicing Kriya Yoga. So those of you who are interested, you can go to kriyayogaonline.com and find out how to master your astral body such that you can jump from one planet to the other. But anyway, so the points you made were fantastic, and I think if we consider the fact that Saturn is debilitated in the sixth, we have the third and the fourth lord debilitated in the sixth. Well, one of the other things that tells us is that that one of the things that a Scorpio ascendant does is they essentially shoot themselves in the foot by turning their emotions, their mother, their family, their friends, and their peers into enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen very often and very easy with the Scorpio ascendant because of that rulership of the third and fourth going debilitated in the sixth. But what we have to kind of tread this fine line here, because then we have Saturn exalted in the 12th. And that's good for numerous things. That's good for being able to be alone, to come up with good ideas, to practice meditation, to regenerate oneself, to there's numerous things. And ruling the third and the fourth, the 12th is the house of loss and distance and detachment. So the Scorpio ascendant does have to come up with a way to have healthy boundaries and healthy detachment from one's mother, one's family, one's friends, one's peers. But that doesn't mean that you cut them all out. That's the extreme that people often go to with Scorpio ascendant. It's learning to have the healthy boundaries, which means you learn to respect those people in your life, even if you don't get along with them, even if they don't like you sometimes. You learn to have healthy respect for those boundaries. And then the Scorpio ascendant tends to have less anxiety, less stress, because they know that they're safe in that 12th house, hidden away from the world. They know that they can relate to these people that are important to them, but they don't get that whole psychodrama of getting too involved in other people's lives, of creating some kind of, Scorpios have a tendency to kind of like make up stories about what this person did to them and hold on to grudges. And it usually revolves around mother, and it usually revolves around friends and peers. So we have to be very cautious about how they approach third and fourth house things due to this exaltation and debilitation position for a Saturn ascendant, or excuse me, the planet Saturn for a Scorpio ascendant.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, not being too fiery about it and learning to let go are really important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've covered a lot about Saturn here, I think. Do you have any other thoughts or closing ideas that on your mind or questions?
No, I think I'm good. I think looking at my notes, yep, that's what I was planning to talk about.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate you tuning in, especially with this long distance. Maybe we had a little bit of interference recording this video because I was so far away on Saturn, but hopefully the people paying attention won't mind too much. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and look forward to see where we go from here.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. See you then.
Take care.